Hey guys, it's Joe. I'm here at Anfora Wine Bar with my really good friend Jasmine Hirsch from Hirsch Vineyards, and I'm super excited to be here with Jasmine today. Hirsch Vineyards is a classic estate in the Sonoma coast of California, and they've been around since the 1970s when Jasmine's father started the vineyards, and bottled their first wine in, I believe, 2002.
Correct. Yes.
And from the time that they started, they represent grapes that are of the highest quality, really balanced grapes, and now the wines as well are some of the most interesting, really elegant and most balanced wines that I've ever seen come out of California. So I'm really excited to be here with Jasmine today.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where Hirsch Vineyards is located, because it's a unique area for California. So tell us a little bit about it.
So the Sonoma Coast is an official AVA, an American viticultural area defined by law. That's north of San Francisco. It's west of Napa. It's actually on the Pacific Ocean, but it's a very large area. There's parts of it that are 40 miles from the coast, but where Hirsch is actually on the ocean. You can stand at the vineyard and look out at the Pacific. So it's about 2.5 miles as the crow flies from the ocean. On a clear day, you can see the whitecaps. It's pretty dramatic. It's beautiful, but it's an extreme location. I mean, we're really farming on the margins. And our little area, which includes now, we were the first people to plant there, but now our neighbors include Martinelli, Marcusson, Flowers. Peter Michael just planted a vineyard. Red Car's out there now. That little area was just given its own sub-AVA called Fort Ross Seaview, and it's the first sub-AVA in the Sonoma Coast area. My father, together with some of our neighbors, started the application process about 10 years ago, and we finally, I think it was in January, finally got the designation. And I think what's really interesting about that new AVA is that it recognizes that that little area is special in a certain way. And the AVA is defined by elevation, so it's all the ridge tops, and it's defined by proximity to the ocean. So recognizing that makes for a unique climate, unique terroir, if you will, and that it's worth separating out from the surrounding areas. So that's been really exciting for us.
Great. And so being closer to the ocean and a higher elevation, I imagine, means that it's going to be a cooler area for winemaking.
Right. Well, so everybody loves to talk about cool climate. It's kind of one of the buzzwords these days. There is a technical definition of cool climate that has to do with degree days, and I don't know the definition, but you need about 50 years of weather records to determine exactly what the climate trends are in your region. Certainly, it's cooler than Russian River, or certainly cooler than Napa or Carneros. What's interesting about where we are is that it tends to be in good vintages, and what makes a great vintage for us is that it is cooler, but lots of sunshine, and the weather can be quite even. So we're not seeing wild swings in temperature, which can make for a very good high acid, moderate alcohol, lots of great flavors. But that sort of vintage is what we're looking for, that sort of quality of grapes. And proximity to the ocean certainly does keep us cooler, but it can also, in difficult vintages, it can bring a tremendous amount of complexity. We can have really dramatic weather events because, you know what it's like when you're on an island. The weather can change from minute to minute. It's like that sometimes at Hirsch. It just snowed the other day, for example, in March.
we haven't seen snow in New York.
Right, it's like 60 degrees here in New York, and it's snowing in California.
That's crazy. So what I love about your wines is how elegant they are, how balanced and how nuanced they are. I find that a lot of times our tastes are changing here, especially in the States. Do you think that these are wines that are kind of the moment right now?
Well, my father we've really made wine the same way since we started in 2002. We have pulled back a little bit on ripeness. I mean, by that I mean we're picking a little bit earlier. I think the reason, for my father, he doesn't really care so much about style. It's not really important to him. For him, the important thing is to make wines that express the terroir, that express the place. And one thing that we've seen with Pinot Noir is that extremely ripe Pinot Noirs tend to express fruit more than terroir. So for us, ripeness is, yes, it creates, picking a little bit earlier, pulling back on ripeness changes the style of the wines, but for us it's more about the intention or the purpose of the wines, which is to express this unique place. And we find that picking a little bit earlier can be helpful with that. But yes, I do think that there's a trend in the American palate towards more finesse, more complexity, more subtlety. I think people are awakening to these kinds of wines, and frankly these kinds of foods as well.
So do you think that certain areas that weren't necessarily typical for winemaking are going to be explored, or are people in general just going to be picking a little bit earlier? How are winemakers going to be adjusting to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything. I think it's going to be where you plant. I think it's going to be which varieties you choose, and then beyond that, which rootstocks are you working with? Which clones are you working with? How do you farm? Are you using irrigation? What kind of trellising system are you using? All these kinds of things. We're converting our property to biodynamic farming, and I definitely think that moving away from synthetic fertilizers and things like that will help the plants to naturally actually pull back from producing excessive carbohydrates, i.e. sugar, i.e. alcohol in the end. So it's all of these things together. So yes, I mean, if you planted Pinot Noir in a hot area, are you going to be able to make wines like that? Probably not. But there's a lot of things that affect that affect the ultimate style of the wine, and when you pick is certainly important. In California, we're blessed and cursed with really great weather, so a lot of years, if you want to let your fruit hang until October or November, you can. It's not just that you have to be in a cool place, but you have to make that choice also.
One of the things that's always fascinated me about the story of Hirsch Vineyards is that no one else was making wine in the Sonoma Coast before your dad started. Is that
well,
true?
On the true Sonoma Coast, there was no serious Pinot plantings. There actually our neighbors, the Bohans, had planted some Pinot Noir in the early 70s, I think, but really planted just for yield-based farming. And so, yes, the vineyards that my father planted in 1980 were the first, serious Pinot vines on the true Sonoma Coast.
So what are some of the challenges with being a pioneer in a winemaking area that people really haven't fully explored?
Well, it's funny. I mean, when my dad started, he knew nothing. We have this little vineyard that's planted on its own roots, so ungrafted vines. And, I'm fascinated with those. In fact, we've had some own-rooted wines from Sicily together,
sure,
from Mount Etna, yeah. And so I'm very interested in this topic. And when I discovered that, in fact, we had some of these vines at Hirsch, I went to my dad and I said, that's amazing. This vineyard's 30 years old. There's no phylloxera. There's no issue with nematodes. How did you know that you could plant ungrafted vines in this little spot? And he laughed and he said, we didn't know we needed to use rootstock. I mean, that's where we started. We didn't know anything. So, trial and error. And in viticulture, trial and error is very time consuming and very expensive. So I guess, it's like being a pioneer in anything. You're starting from scratch, which can bring its blessings, right? You can do whatever you want, but that can also be a challenge, because how do you know what to do? What do you choose? So,
well, it seems that you've figured out, you had some really early success, and that's been continuing. So, congratulations.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I definitely encourage everyone to try Hirsch Vineyards wines. Really, some of my favorite wines coming out of California, if not the entire world. So, thank you so much, and tune in again.
Thanks.